All right, the vast right-wing conspiracy is alive and well, according to President Barack Obama. Now, in an interview with Brian Williams of NBC News, the president was asked to respond to the recent Time magazine poll that showed that 1 in 5 Americans thinks he is a Muslim. Well, President Obama says he knows who is to blame for this poll, and take a look.
We went through some of this during the campaign. There is a mechanism, a network of misinformation that in a new media era can get churned out there constantly.
All right, a mechanism of misinformation. That sounds awfully familiar now, doesn't it?
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
Memories. And also in the interview, the president raised the issue of his birth certificate yet again. He just can't seem to stop talking about it. Let's take a look at this.
I'm not going to be worrying too much about whatever rumors are floating on out there. If I spend all my time chasing after that, then I wouldn't get much done. I would say that I can't spend all my time with my birth certificate plastered on my forehead.
All right, and guess who's coming to the defense of the anointed one? None other than his old pal, his former pastor, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Wright lashed out at voters who identify the president as a Muslim, referring to them as, quote, the enemy and as, quote, sycophants. Joining me now to respond to this, the president's revival of the vast right-wing conspiracy, the return of Reverend Wright, and, of course, the election is former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Governor, welcome back to the program. Thanks for being here.
Hey, it's my highest privilege to be with you, Sean. Thank you.
I don't even know what to make of, the president and his answer and the right-wing conspiracy and the birth. Why is he bringing all this up, just coming off a vacation? He seemed pretty defensive and angry. What was your reaction?
Well, my first reaction was listening to Brian Williams and wondering, Brian, yes, that's some stealth reporting. You're not even going to follow up and ask him, what in the heck is Barack Obama talking about? What is he insinuating? I was, pretty appalled at that notion that Brian Williams was just letting him get away with that kind of false accusation that there is some kind of suggested right-wing conspiracy again, especially knowing that the media still, the mainstream media, they're in his back pocket still. You know
what was amazing to me? This seems like some pretty basic questions that went unasked in this interview. For example, why is our State Department, why is Barack Obama sending this controversial imam who says America is an accessory to 9/11? Why are we paying for him to go to the Middle East? What did he think of his comments when he said Osama bin Laden's made in the USA? What does he think about the idea that this guy wants America to be Sharia compliant? What is it about the basic questions that these guys can't seem to come up with?
They won't even ask those basic questions. Nobody's going to ask those questions unless the president were to join you on your show, Sean. I kid you not. The state of journalism today is very, very sad with that mainstream media allowing the president to make these kind of false accusations like he had. It's a lot like Bill Clinton made the point in the presidential campaign when Barack Obama was misrepresenting Hillary Clinton's record and her intentions. And Bill Clinton said, this is the biggest fairy tale I've ever seen. Well, that remains today. It's continuing to be this fairy tale that Barack Obama wants to perpetuate and lay all over the American people. And the media is not asking him the questions like you're pointing out right now that have to be asked.
One of the things I've been contending from day one is the president is far more radical than he lets on. The president now, look at where we are economically. Look at where he's been on national affairs, international affairs. And I'm just, is anything he's done surprised you at all? Or is this what you expected from him when you were running as vice president?
What surprised me was he would be so bold as to appoint his czars who are so far on the left. I thought that he would be a little bit more politically astute and bring some moderates in. But those who are calling the shots with him and for him are those on such a far extreme left that they're doing great damage to our country. And you're seeing, though, more and more people engaged, motivated because we are concerned, and we're going to do something about it in the November midterm so that we can take the gavel away from those who are kind of the sheep deep underneath President Obama right now, Pelosi and Reid, and are conducting some activity in implementing some policies by adopting policies that are not right for our economy and for our national security.
Governor, you have put yourself out there and you've made it known that you are supporting more conservative candidates. And in many instances, the people that you have gone out on a limb for, the people that you have endorsed, have sort of shattered the illusions of the establishment, and these candidates are breaking through. As you look at the different candidates that you supported early on and that you have endorsed that were not establishment candidates, even in your home state of Alaska, how do you interpret that? What do you think is happening in the country right now? What do you think the mood is, and what does it tell us about November 2nd?
There is a craving in the electorate to start balancing out the extremism that we see on the left that is running the show. And people know that to balance that out, we need not more of even the GOP establishment that's kind of gone along to get along, but those who are even bolder, more protectionist of our Constitution, more conservative. So that's who you are seeing is surfacing on top through these primaries. We have our own Miracle on Ice going on right here in Alaska. We're a dynasty, the Murkowski family, finally somebody with a sterling record and a wonderful resume and understanding of the Constitution has challenged her. He's winning during this vote count right now, and you're going to see, I think, via Alaska's election, that manifestation of voters' desire to see positive change.
You see, but it's interesting because they're already trying to vilify him in any way they possibly can and paint him as extreme because he says constitutionally, for example, maybe privatizing Social Security is the right thing to do. Maybe the government is not better off controlling every aspect of our life. Of course, I'm talking about Joe Miller. So we see the same thing. I agree with you. I think the country, and if you look at the polls, 40% of the American people identify themselves as conservative. Only 20% of the people identify themselves as liberal. So I think the electorate is far more conservative, and we're seeing that. Do you think the Republican Party, though, and the establishment, as you call them, are getting the message that the electorate and their mood is more towards conservative leanings than Republican?
I do believe that many in the GOP machine, in that upper echelon of spokes in the machine, they're understanding that people are saying enough is enough of some of you guys going along just to get along, and we do want to balance this out. But isn't it funny, Sean, that people would consider an extreme position being one of protecting the Constitution and recognizing that the federal government has limited rights, and it's only the rights that we as the electorate give them that they can implement and that they can cover us with. Isn't it funny that people would consider that extreme? That's certainly nothing that our founders, I'm sure, would have ever envisioned.
You know, that was actually the answer that Joe Miller gave in an interview over the weekend. He said, well, I think you're out of touch with our founders and our framers and our Constitution. But, Governor, we have a lot more. We have some polls to show you and a lot more. And tonight in Your America, it appears that a Republican revolution reminiscent of the one we saw in 1994 could very well be imminent. Now, according to Gallup, with just over 60 days to go before the midterm elections, the GOP now holds a 10-point lead over the Democrats. And when asked what party they plan to support in November, 51% of voters say they would side with the Republican candidate. Only 41% say they would vote for the Democratic candidate. And to put all of this into perspective, for the GOP's 10-point lead, which, by the way, is the largest any party has held since Gallup began tracking the generic ballot in 1942. We continue now with former Alaska Governor, Fox News contributor, Governor Sarah Palin. 1942. This is the largest lead a party has ever had. Could this even be bigger than
that's amazing.
94?
Well, this is huge. This is huge, and it's very encouraging. But it's also, you know, this wake-up call that's got to be heard by those constitutional conservatives who are motivated to get out there and vote, for those who are running for office who get it. We cannot be complacent. We have to make sure that we are aggressive in these coming weeks, and then when we get to the polls, to pull that lever for the right person. But what it basically is telling us is that, no, people, they know. The White House is underestimating the wisdom of the people. We do know that government is not the answer. The government that governs best governs least, and that's that reflection in those polls.
You know, Governor, those are the simple, basic principles. That's what Ronald Reagan talked about. I play a lot of Ronald Reagan speeches on my radio show. I've read all of Reagan's writings. Reagan in His Own Hand is one of the best books you can read. Right now, the only concern I have is if the Republican Party gets that this is a conservative movement or the conservative ascendancy. You're a strong conservative. What do you think? What do you tell the Republican Party the 5 items they should be running on right now?
We need growth incentives to allow our economy to be back on the right track. We need to make sure that there is the promise made and then kept by these candidates that they will do all that they can to not let Barack Obama increase our taxes. And, 18 weeks from now, we're going to be slapped with the largest increase in taxes in U.S. history if those Bush tax cuts are allowed to expire. So that's absolutely nonsensical in the state of the economy. We need to be running on energy independence, making sure that those lands that have been set aside for conventional sources of energy to be explored and responsibly extracted, that we finally get to do that so that we can be secure. And we need to cut spending. We are in a hole. We need to quit digging. The federal government is growing this debt, and the debt service is going to just eat our lunch. All those common sense things, Sean, that so many candidates are thankfully running on, we need to make sure that they're taken care of.
All right, so taxes, cutting spending, energy independence. Certainly, I think we could add to the list controlling our borders, reading bills before voting on them, and certainly not apologizing for America. That would probably round out the top 5 or 6 items.
Yeah, let me add, too, that we need to quit coddling our enemies and poking our allies in the eye. I don't know still what the heck this foreign policy is that's coming out of the White House that is creating such uncertainty in that arena, too. We already know it's such a given that there is great uncertainty in our economy, but now even on national security questions, our allies don't know if they can count on us, and that is just like the antithesis of Ronald Reagan and his policies, where our enemies knew to fear us, a healthy fear of America, and our friends knew that they could count on us because they knew that a strong America would allow for a more peaceful world.
Governor, as I watch, I know you were out in Washington this weekend, and you've been traveling around the country with varying candidates, and you've been on the stump. Wherever you go, it seems that no matter what you say, what you do, you seem to draw the most attention of any political figure out there today. Why do you think that is at this point? What do you think the difference is? Because I know a lot of candidates would probably like to have your popularity, but they don't.
Yeah. I feel very, very blessed that a platform that perhaps I have been given at this point can be used for good to help get this country back on the right track, and it is quite humbling. But no, there are so many people out there, Sean, you being one of them, with that megaphone, that voice that people are craving to hear. And what people want to hear are time-tested truths and how they can be applied to the challenges facing America today. And just that acknowledgement that there is nothing wrong with America today that Americans can't fix. You have that same platform, Sean, and there are a lot of candidates out there with the same, and let's be thankful for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the message is also far simpler than some will make it out to be. I wish some Republicans, and I know they're talking about putting some ideas on paper and maybe sort of duplicating the contract with America. I'd like to see those promises on paper. Good idea, bad idea?
I think it's a great idea. That is more proof. It's tangible, something that you can lay your hands on, the American voter can. And it also allows then politicians, once they're elected, we get to hold them accountable because we get to tell them, you signed that contract with America, for America, from Americans. You'd better stick with it or you're fired.
What do you think? So for the next 60 days, you are going to be doing what? And are you thinking at all about your own political future?
Not thinking so much about my own political future, that's for sure, because, my concern are these midterms and turning things around, Sean. This is a desperate time in America, and unfortunately, when you look at some of the characters in the White House, we have to realize that they are getting pretty desperate, and we need to be very, very careful and be very astute in the next 2 years when it comes to seeing, watching, hearing what it is that they're going to do to America. So we need to make sure that we have a Congress that is elected that can stop some of the things of the Pelosi-Reid-Obama agenda. That's why these midterms are so extremely important, and I'm going to be helped to campaign for these folks to get elected.
All right, Governor. Now, can I catch salmon in the backyard over your shoulder?
You can catch a little bit of fish out here, absolutely. You need to get up here and you can do your show from right here.
I know. Greta went up there and she didn't go fishing. I didn't get it. I would have been out there in the backyard with a fishing pole. But Governor, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Sean.